one particular nation will come up on the scene known as Iran. When you read the word of God in the book of Daniel, the chapter number 10, it was in Medo-Persia that Daniel experienced resistance concerning his prayer for the liberation of the people of Israel out of captivity. And for 21 days, the prince of Persia, who was not only a physical entity but also a spiritual entity, withstood the angel Gabriel. Persia is actually Iran. So when we see Iran defending Palestine, we know that it is that same spirit of the time of Daniel that is at work. Iran has given full support to Hamas, financially, publicly, every way. It is that same spirit of that time that is at work.
I see Satan trying to move China and Iran to create nuclear war. And so we must pray and command the dragon of China to calm down and the beast of Iran to also calm down. Iran shouldn't be tempted to make threats to the US because this year there is war brewing in the spirit, and any small thing can just set it off. Iran, leave US military bases alone.
Overseas now, attacks by Israel on Iran are expanding, and so is the crossfire. Tonight, Israel's Iron Dome defense system intercepted a new volley of attacks from Iran. We get more now from CBS's Deborah Patta in Amman, Jordan.
Iran has launched another wave of strikes against Israel, and the stakes could not be higher for the embattled region as Tehran has called off planned nuclear talks with Washington scheduled for Sunday. This is the moment Iran struck Tel Aviv in a series of retaliatory strikes early Saturday. The conflict between the longtime foes has escalated dramatically and is now heading into its third night. As waves of Iranian missiles rain down, some made it through Israel's air defense systems, smashing into homes, injuring dozens, and killing at least 3 Israelis. But that toll was dwarfed by the damage Israel inflicted on Iran. Iran says more than 60 people and nearly 30 children have died, and Israel says it has killed 9 Iranian scientists and has targeted oil, gas, and nuclear facilities in a bid to cripple the country's nuclear capacity. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he is not done yet. This is the largest and longest exchange of military strikes between the two rivals ever.
Israel attacks Iran. What message is that sending to China on Taiwan?
Well, first of all, it is telling the Chinese that they're losing their proxy, Iran. And China's Middle East policy is now in disarray. With regard to Taiwan, we just don't know how the calculus is inside an increasingly turbulent Chinese regime. There's a lot of evidence that Xi Jinping has lost control of the Chinese military, and he's in increasing trouble with civilians at the top of the party. So this right now is anyone's guess as to how the Chinese would view it, but nothing is off the table, Stuart. So yes, there could be increased pressure on Taiwan in the next few weeks.
Donald Trump says that we know where the Supreme Leader is hiding. He wrote on X, we know exactly where the so-called Supreme Leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out, at least not for now. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers, and our patience is wearing thin. Now, Ayatollah Khamenei says that the battle begins. In a post, he followed up that we will show no mercy to the Zionists, or we will show the Zionists no mercy, rather.
Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success.
President Trump addressing his decision to strike 3 of Iran's nuclear sites to prevent the country from building a nuclear bomb. He says Iran has repeatedly threatened to destroy Israel and says the U.S. completely obliterated its key nuclear enrichment centers, including the heavily fortified Fordo, a facility located 300 feet below the surface of the ground. The bomb used is tens of thousands of pounds and requires a special jet to deploy the weapon, equipment that only the U.S. possesses.
Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
And Iran has confirmed the attacks and says there's no sign of contamination at its nuclear sites. At this hour, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is reportedly in hiding, fearing an assassination attempt.
The last hour here, the Defense Department confirmed a missile attack from Iran on a U.S. military base in Qatar. All missiles were intercepted. There are no reports of any casualties. This comes after the U.S. bombed 3 nuclear sites in Iran over the weekend. KTV's James Torres in the newsroom here following leaked details. James?
Garcia, well, President Trump met with his national security team in the Oval Office. That includes Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. That meeting is meant to talk about plans to handle an Iranian retaliation strike, though we don't know what those details are because it was a closed-door meeting. All of this coming after a weekend of strikes against Iran by both the U.S. and Israel. Iran launching 6 ballistic missiles as a result, all of which were intercepted. Experts call this attack mostly symbolic. Qatar did get a heads up hours in advance. Some say this allows Iran to save face for its people while sending a message to the U.S. and also keeping the door open for peace talks. Experts now warn the U.S. needs to keep cool when considering its response to these retaliatory attacks.
I think we're in a very dangerous time here, and what one would hope is after 25 years of failed efforts by the United States to reshape the region, we're talking about Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, etc. We have one disaster after the next, that we would not go and insert U.S. troops into Iran. This could be disastrous.